Yeah. So in the 3 years since I've been a comic book nerd, I've amassed quite a collection, and I do I do find myself enjoying comics more and more. Buying ones or seeking out certain ones in order to read them through. So I thought today I'd do another one of my top five graphic novels in my collection. However, while I may have done things like this in the past, this time I'm going to split them up into Marvel and DC, just so things are a little bit more evenly matched. So today I'm going to share with you my top five DC graphic novels I've collected so far. I may collect more and better ones in the future. Plus, keep in mind, this is just my personal opinion. They don't have to be your favourites, in fact. And there were some great ones that I had to push further down the list. And some that I did enjoy, even if others don't. Or some that others enjoy that I found myself not being able to get into. But, anyway, on to my top five. And number five, my fifth favourite DC graphic novel, The Flash, Out of Time. Essentially volume 6 in the New 52 Flash series. This one sees Barry Allen having to deal with a version of himself in the future who's coming back through time to try and fix his past mistakes, and in doing so is causing trouble, including killing his former enemies and attempting to stop various things from happening and ultimately causing disaster. I remember I mainly got this one from the view of new YouTubers like Comic Story, and put me onto the track of this one. And I think it is, while there are other DC comics that will relate you to the actual Flash supervillain named Savitar, this one is kind of the closest to the interpretation shown on the CW Flash series. I mean, he's not exactly named Savitar in this, he's just Barry Allen from the future, but it's the closest that you're going to get to the version that we saw on screen. So yeah, that's why I essentially got this one, but it's a pretty good story nonetheless. Having Flash seeing a future version of himself and realising what he's becoming, it's actually quite a thrilling read. I would advise it if you can get your hands on it. Next up, my number 4 from the Rebirth series. Again, we're jumping from New 52 to Rebirth. Green Arrow, The Death and Life of Oliver Queen. This one, while I admit I got out of time because of the Flash CW series, I think that's while it wasn't the major reason, it's what I felt when I was reading The Death and Life of Oliver Queen. In that, I bought it just because I found it in a bookshop and thought, yay, Green Arrow. I started reading it through, and it's the closest I've read so far to the actual CW version of Arrow. I mean, while I have read other Green Arrow Green Arrow parts in DC Comics, for example, this New 52, The Midas Touch, this one to me felt the closest to Arrow that we've been seeing for the past 6 years. You've got Oliver Queen in there as the Green Arrow. Also, while he was created for the CW series, you also get John Diggle in there, which is it's good to see. You also get a version of the brain computer guy who this time isn't Felicity but a guy named Henry, which is also fun to see. And you also get a version of Oliver's adopted sister, which she isn't called Thea here, called something else, but it parallels pretty well. You even get the romance with Black Canary. And you know what? It's a good read through. I advise, if you can find it in bookshops or online, check it out. It's a pretty good one. Anyway, my number 3. This is one that I remember actively asking for, and I got it for my birthday, and it was Batman: The War of Jokes and Riddles. This was another one that I got turned on to by, that I saw on Comic Storian. He was talking about it, and I remember thinking it sounded like quite a good story, and I got it, I sat down and I read it through, and I do think it is one of the great Batman stories. Even if it's not the one you'd immediately look for, it is one of those great ones. Yeah, yeah. For those who don't know, the War of Jokes and Riddles kind of follows Bruce Wayne asking Selina Kyle to marry him, but before he came asked her to marry him, he tells her the story of when he failed, of kind of when a war disintegrated between the Joker and the Riddler and led to basically a siege, which it's quite dark story when you think about it, but then they present it in quite a light way, and they even managed to kind of mix up some elements from Batman's past, including one of his most goofy villains, Kite Man. But they do manage in this story to make Kite Man kind of a sympathetic villain, and when you read all of it together, it kind of brings a tear to your eye. I admit it's probably not the first one people would go rushing to, like, oh, I've got to read The War of Jokes and Riddles, but yeah, I'd advise you, if you can find it, it's a really good read, and is one of those kind of underrated great Batman stories. But speaking of Batman, he also makes my number two. This one was one of my more recent acquisitions, and it's also one of his quite famous ones, Batman: The Long Halloween. The Dark Knight Returns was on my list. It sadly got pushed down, but Batman: The Long Halloween, I've it's been talked about for years, and eventually I did manage to find it on a book in a bookshop, and I bought it. I sat down, I read it through, and I do see why people consider it one of the great Batman stories. It shows Batman, Commissioner Gordon teaming up with Harvey Dent in order to try and locate a criminal nicknamed Holiday who's seemingly killing killing gang members. And it is a pretty tragic look at the side of Harvey Dent, which I think he had been Two-Face before, but this one kind of builds it out more, and it is legitimately one of the great Batman stories. Kind of, it moves quite fast paced, jumping from holiday to holiday, but it's done surprisingly well, and honestly, there's not quite a lot more praise I can give it, because it is just one of those things that you have to read it in order to understand it, and that's why it makes my number two. But my number one, this might be controversial, but my number one best DC comic that I personally read, Flashpoint. This one was about the fourth graphic novel I picked up. Well, yeah, fourth ever from Marvel or DC, and I'm mostly glad I did. I mean, this one was also kind of because of the CW TV series, where they recently finished season 2 and they were about to start season 3, which was due to take, well, a few small elements from Flashpoint, and it's one of the great DC comics. Seeing Barry Allen travel back in time to try and save his mother, but also kind of dealing with the effects that his time travel will bring. It it's just a joy to read, and it even started off the New 52. I've heard people didn't really like the New 52, but I honestly feel that I personally enjoy the New 52. It's got a lot of great stories in it. In fact, most of my DC collection is made up of New 52. But yeah, I feel for even people who don't like New 52, I feel have to would make an exception in this case. It is a really great book to read, and I advise you, if you can get your hands on it, do it. It's a beautiful story and it's very well done. So there you go. There's my top 5 DC comic books. I might do one later on Marvel, but yeah, that's my top 10 DC. I'm pretty proud of it. What, top 5 DC? That's it. I'm pretty proud of it. Till then, see ya.